Welcome to Viseland. Mikey, what has been happening in your world this past week?
More like this past day. And the NBA playoffs just started today. We're recording Monday, August 17th. Jason, did you get a chance to watch any of the playoff action today? Because it was crazy.
It was a good start. Definitely, you have like someone like, without going too much, Luca setting the record for most points in the first ever playoff game.
Most turnovers also, but the points were very impressive. Did you see the Clippers guys like bouncing off of him like they were little children?
Oh no, it was some video game action, like some like
Yeah.
late 90s video game action where
Why wasn't Kawhi or Paul George more guarding Luka? Like they throw in Pat Bev. I guess they're assuming like the game was in enough space where they could just keep giving Luka like these easy baskets and then preserving Kawhi's energy to keep scoring on the other end. I don't know.
life is all about preserving Kawhi's energy. I mean, that's kind of like
True enough. Yeah. Good point.
everyone's got to do it. But yeah, no, like I think it's been a good start to the playoffs. I think it was a good end to the regular season with like really those battles that were going on Thursday night. You had like Phoenix going 8-0 and still not
Amazing.
still not,
They gave a hell of a performance, and yeah, that's a young team to really look forward to next year. It was honestly a crying shame that they didn't have a chance to get to that playing game, but I guess they were just coming from too far behind,
no,
which sounds terrible now that I just said that phrase. But yeah,
you look at it in a normal season, with like 16-ish games left. If you went 8 in a row, odds are you can keep some momentum and really fight for that. Yeah, they're just like a victim of this circumstance of like condensed games, and they were kind of on the outside looking in anyway. Like it was really a kind of Portland, Memphis, and then if the NBA had its way and could rig the league how they wanted to, New Orleans kind of race.
oh yeah, it seemed like New Orleans didn't really have it going. Luckily had that nice lead going into it, and then they did what they had to do, and Portland did what they had to do in a bunch of close games against teams that were not
Yeah, not to the level. I mean,
who was the bubble MVP, rightfully so. What were you saying, Jason?
yeah, because like some of the games were, like Washington didn't really have a case to be in the bubble at all. So those were kind of some nice games if you get them.
Have an even number.
Showing up. Yeah, well, that's why it's like they had to even it out.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think good showing so far. And so, what are we going to be talking about today? What are we diving into?
We are diving into a few of I would say, bubble surprises. So none of the players we chose were all-stars this past season, but they were some of the best players in the bubble or players that gave surprisingly good performances based on what they had done for the rest of the season and looked pretty promising moving forward. So yeah, we just wanted to highlight 10 guys that kind of stood out in the bubble. We want to give props also to some of the best players of the bubble. Damian Lillard, for sure. Devin Booker. Jason, can you pull up like the all bubble first and second team? I'm not sure if you have them, but yeah, obviously Damian and Devin on that team. We're going to focus on another one of those players that made, I believe, the all bubble first team. And we have a couple guys that made the second team as well.
Yeah, you had Monty Williams.
A lot of young players took a really positive step forward as well.
Yeah, Lillard, Harden, Doncic, Booker, Warren. Second team, Giannis, Kawhi, LeVert, Porter Jr., Porzingis. Yeah, I mean, like, a lot of guys got to make very good cases for themselves. And, in a couple of the situations, they got to get a little bit more playing time that they wouldn't have, really gotten otherwise.
Yeah. I'm just wondering if that will be like on their like Wikipedia page or anything like that, or if, the 8-game sample size isn't good enough. But I think for us and for how long it took the NBA season to come back, huge milestone and a great look into what these players might provide moving forward, or at least, what they can do for this playoff run with a few of the players as well.
Yeah, no,
but
great showcase opportunities, to still get out and do what you're doing. So yeah, let's start it off.
Yeah, so the first player I wanted to get into was TJ Warren, who was just absolutely gave some crazy performances in the bubble. had sparked it up with that 53-point game against Philadelphia. The Pacers get the 4 seed, which I don't think was expected when they were pretty close with Miami, which is a team that is expected to win that series, but, very close with them. But, yeah, TJ Warren basically traded for cash considerations from Phoenix and comes into the bubble and is absolutely balling, like just scoring in so many different varieties. The guy's always been a bucket. Like that's what he's known for. The guy can get you baskets. He can play either forward spot. Not much of a passer.
But he's having himself a nice little season, up until.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, he was playing well before also, but yeah.
But then he took this kind of, because there's 2 ways, like players can come back to these things. Like they could be rusty and kind of out of it, or they could be very laser sharp and focused. And he was definitely it seemed like the latter for the most part.
I think also, like, let's throw in the fact that these guys don't have to travel and they're playing in one place. Like that likely helps as well. But yeah, no question that TJ Warren came back with laser sharp focus. And beyond that 53-point game against Philadelphia, he had the 39-point game against the Lakers, where down the stretch, like, they could not guard him. And he looked really, really good in a number of games. He only plays 6 games, but averages 31 points per game, shoots 57.8% from the field, 52.4% from 3, 89% from the line, averages 6.3 rebounds, a couple assists per game, 1.3 steals and 1.2 blocks. And yeah, just have to say, like, if he gives a little more defensive effort as well, like that's not the worst thing in the world.
He's got a chance to get some playing time, to also keep this going in the playoffs too. No Sabonis, most likely, doubtful he's back.
And I think a huge reason why so much of the responsibility fell to him as well. Victor Oladipo kind of coming back, and we'll see what he does against Miami. That's a series that should be interesting. Like, I feel that Miami is going to pull that one out as well. I wouldn't think it would be much of a competition, but Indiana is scrappy, and if TJ Warren is anything like he was over the 6 games he played, I will say that he had a couple games where he wasn't necessarily like as great as the other 4, but he just the guy's a bucket getter. Certainly has a spot in the NBA as somebody who can get you quick baskets as a combo forward. The like pull up and spot up shooting, both very impressive. Getting a lot of transition buckets as well. The guy, and like always, was able to take advantage in the post too. So yeah, he's somebody who definitely looked like a very good grab for
cash.
Indiana. Not that Phoenix missed him much in the bubble either, but they certainly, I'm sure, were looking at TJ Warren every night and going like, oh, we could have had that too. That would have been
put that with Devin Booker and Ayton and what they're doing. But yeah, no, I think like he's got a really good chance to keep this momentum in the playoffs. Like without Sabonis, and then who knows where he'll be next year. Once Oladipo back for a full season, healthy.
Yeah, have to give Indiana like a lot of credit for how well they played too.
Yeah, it's a very interesting little roster. But I definitely like personally. I also agree. Like I'll give Miami a little edge there. But yeah, like they definitely are scrappy.
I give Miami more than a little edge, but I think that you never know. Yeah, like the last game of the season, they play each other, and Indiana gets the home court advantage. Wins that game. But playoffs are a whole different ball game, as we saw tonight. It went chalk today. So all the home teams are the favorites.
Yeah, the ones with their laser images on the court and their fans in the jumbotrons there.
Let's give a second to shout out that Donovan Mitchell scored 57 freaking points in a loss.
So it's MJ, Baylor, MJ, Baylor, and then Donovan Mitchell.
Money.
And then
And yeah, he was unreal today. Jamal Murray stepping up big time in overtime
they
too.
interviewed Jamal Murray after the game, and he was like shocked that Donovan had 57
Yeah,
because it just
yeah.
happens.
Jamal's just laser focused on his own point getting. So yeah, let's move on to our second player that we wanted to highlight here. Has been an all-star once before, maybe an all-star again. Was a guy that kind of came into the season, and yes, the team was playing pretty well, but you expected a little bit more from him. And they got a little bit more in the bubble. And Kristaps Porzingis was looking really damn good as a running mate to Luka Doncic. He had the most bullshit luck tonight because he gets into a little scrap with Marcus Morris Sr.
And that's the difference in this game too. It's like it's such a close game. You know, Kristaps would have changed it.
Definitely. So yeah, we're hoping he is all right for the rest of the series. We're hoping the refs kind of lay off on the technicals. I actually, a friend of the program and friend of myself, PD Webb, had a good point in that society may have grown past needing technical fouls. And that could be something to discuss in the future. You could just maybe give like an intentional or like personal foul, and that would, serve its purpose as well. But yeah, I think that it was an absolute drag what they did tonight with Kristaps. But let's focus on the fact that in 6 games, in the seeding round of the bubble, Kristaps Porzingis averaged 30.5 points per game, made 2.7 threes per game on 38%. The guy is like a ridiculous shooter. Went to the line 9.2 times per game and shot 89%, averaged 9.5 rebounds, 2.2 assists, 1.5 blocks. The defense is still kind of like coming along. I feel like that's still something that he needs to kind of get back to. And I would say that is like the case for Dallas in general. They had the best offensive rating in NBA history this season. Their defense still leaves you a lot to be desired. But Kristaps is still like a good rim protector, and he's just such a presence out there. He's so agile at 7'3".
He's healthy right now. Like that's the
7-footers do not shoot as aesthetically well as that guy.
That's why he gets himself that nickname, the Unicorn.
Yeah,
he really can do, like, he does so much. And yeah,
also his love of threesomes.
Probably.
But yeah, we'll throw that out. No, of course not. The Unicorn, that was the term that Kevin Durant had given to Kristaps due to the rarity of his skill set. But he has looked like that, what they really expected out of him. And he was looking that way at the end of the regular season as well. Yeah. But he comes here and he's ready to go. It certainly is that second guy for Dallas right now, and hoping to see more. Like the way they started off the game tonight, like, was an absolute disaster. They were down like 18-2, and then they come back and they're up.
Yeah,
like 12 points, and like they seemed like they were in the driver's seat. And then Luka gets into a little thing with Marcus Morris Sr., who was completely the instigator. Kristaps comes to defend his man, and the refs had already given him a tee. And
how is that different than what they used to do in the 80s? Like with they would do that if someone was going at Magic or going at Bird. Yeah, it was kind of a rough call, but yeah, I think like the future there in Dallas offensively is so good. I'd say like,
oh man, it's looking really good. Yeah, it'll just be up to how they build that team. But yeah, the way that after like basically not playing basketball for 20 months.
Yeah, like he had
Kristaps, you knew it was going to take him time, but he's such an elite shooter for his size, can do so many other things. Like, man, when he like goes for some of those dunks and like moves around the basket, he just gets up so damn high. He's an amazing athlete for his size and clearly deserved to be on the all-bubble team. Luka made the first team and was playing like some terrific basketball as well, and tonight was absolutely incredible. Like the preeminent young talent in the league, when you're talking about guys who have only been in the league for like a few years. And He is looking like he may go on to one of the best careers we've ever seen in the NBA. Like those are the early returns.
He's
But
always,
Kristaps, people still wondering if Kristaps can be that second guy, and he seems to be coming a long way in quelling those concerns.
No, definitely. And I think again, like that a pick and pop with like Luka and Kristaps, like that is bad news. Like that is bad news defensively. And just being able to spread the court with someone like Kristaps definitely frees up Luka to do a lot of his things. Because like Luka, can shoot it outside, but he likes to take it in. Like he likes to be, you saw that at the end of the game. Not like he was aggressive.
Pat Bev just bouncing off of him like he was a little kid.
Yeah, like Patrick Beverly, like we're talking about a guy who made his stripes in the NBA off of his defense.
Yeah. And clearly Luka just knew what to do there, and just.
Obviously watch some.
It was amazing. Like he never like really like led with the shoulder either. It just like it was bouncing off of his chest. It was crazy. Just getting that first contact, getting that angle. He's so damn impressive. And yeah, like so my friend actually asked me this. He said, "Who would you rather have with Luka and Kristaps, or Devin Booker and DeAndre Ayton?" And I said, I'd rather have Luka like without any of those guys. Like
Luka and whoever, because the thing is, like,
he's the guy.
He also, again, like all the great guys, like he, even if they're not a true point guard necessarily, like, but the great guys still take the ball up the court at the end of the game. Your Kobe's, your Michael Jordans,
you want that primary initiator. That's,
whereas like that is Luka. He can do that, and I'm sure if he had another point guard, he'd play off the ball, okay, but. Give him the ball. You need the ball in his hands because he's going to make great things happen.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter who he's with.
For sure. Great point. Also, something to note is that while we are naming the 10 breakout players of the bubble, we're also going to talk about so many other players during this. and we're loving it.
Just remember, one player leads to the next player.
Absolutely. And there are lots of guys that we want to shout out. And
you look at the KP Luka, it's like, Luka's 20, KP's 24.
Yeah, like pretty online as far as age.
Like, I mean, to really do that, and like, like hopefully Kristaps is back. I mean, next year it'd be great to see him, again, start the year healthy and then make that Western Conference All-Star team and be back where he should have been kind of pre those injuries.
That is what you absolutely hope. And our next player was on the second team, and he was we watched a like nail biter of a game against the Portland Trail Blazers where this guy just went completely crazy. He also only played 6 bubble games, but just how the Nets played in those games, very impressive. I believe they went 5-3, but still, like nobody was really expecting much from them. Because Kyrie announced he wasn't coming to the bubble. Kevin Durant, of course, sat out for the year. The right thing to do.
DeAndre doesn't gets COVID.
Yeah, DeAndre Jordan doesn't come. So Jared Allen actually gets a little playing time, and that's going to be a really interesting scenario. What they end up doing with Jared Allen, who I think is a promising young center, but has another year basically on his rookie deal, and then they kind of need to decide what they want to do with him. And I feel like the other guys may kind of get him out of there, which I'm not sure is the right move, but I guess we'll see what happens.
Yeah,
But Karis LeVert, 25 points per game, doesn't really shoot well from the free throw line or from 3, but still 48% from the field, 5 rebounds, 6.7 assists per game. So taking a lot of the facilitator duty and a 2-to-1 assist to turnover ratio, playing like some pretty solid defense. I thought the Karis contract was pretty decent. Like it seemed fine. Is he like the third best guy on a title contending team? I'm not sure, but
you have Durant and and hopefully Kyrie both out where they want to be. I mean,
yeah,
he could be.
Yeah. I think at the very least, he's a player who has shown that, when he was thrust into this spot, he did some really good things. You'd like to see that shooting and everything be a little bit more consistent. He's had issues with injury as well, but just a solid wing and looked really good here. Like the Blazers made him look like an all-star. I'll say that.
Again, against
I don't know if Karras is ever going to be an all-star, but against some teams, he can look like an all-star.
Oh, totally. Sometimes I look at games and I look at players and situations and I think to myself, if this was my first game ever watching, like what would be my take on this? And if you watch that Blazer Brooklyn game for the, your first time watching, you'd be like, who is this guy?
Oh,
that is the person I need to be following.
Turn it up. That shot at the end of the game was kind of a bummer, but again, he was the guy getting the shots. Spencer Dinwiddie was out too. Yeah, man.
Oh yeah, Dinwiddie didn't show up. And 37 points, 9 assists, 6 rebounds. Like that's a pretty complete.
That was a beast of a performance. And God, I wasn't even happy after that game. Like it was just like a brutal game. And man.
Playoffs, but they don't get to go with like the momentum you want to of like, yay, we did it. It's gonna like we got. You're like. Defense needs to be worked on.
Oh man, yeah. Like I know a lot of people feel like the Blazers making it and they can make some noise and everything. I am not so sure. As much as I love I live in Portland. The Blazers are going to have a place in my heart. I watch a lot of the Blazers. I am not so sure about this team, man.
I'm a super biased fan. I'm not going to lie, but yeah, it's like you got to look at it realistically. It's like.
Yeah.
I mean,
I would love to be proven wrong.
With me on NBA 2K, I'm sure we can make a run. But yeah, like in the real world, like it's going to be, there's some rooms of improvement, and that you're talking, you don't have anyone to match up with LeBron at the end or Anthony Davis.
Yeah.
Put them together.
My feeling exactly with the Lakers is, well, somebody pointed out to me that the Lakers starters are better and their bench is better. But then you also have the fact that I think the Lakers have a lot better chance of stopping Dame and CJ than the Blazers do of stopping LeBron and Anthony Davis. And it's great if people want their fairy tale. And I would love, if this could be a fairy tale season, like now or never, let's go.
I'd love it more than ever. I'd love to see it in my lifetime. But Caris LeVert looked like a complete star. And he was putting up some nice numbers on this Brooklyn team that he's going to get to really be the guy on in the playoffs too. Because again, Dinwiddie, Durant, Kyrie, DeAndre, like all those guys are out of the picture. So it's really like
it was an absolute housing today for the most part.
Oh, totally.
But yeah,
but he's gonna have the chances to have the ball in his hands to hopefully make something happen. I'm guessing the Raptors are probably going to go for the sweep. I'd be really surprised with the way they're playing right now if that's not the case. But at least, he has a chance to put up, a good game or two to really give him that kind of positive momentum going into next year, playing alongside Durant, Kyrie.
Let's shout out the fact that Chris Boucher was putting up numbers for the Raptors too. And this is a Chris Boucher jersey in the back if people are watching on YouTube. I love that guy. I love him. I hope he gets a role on some team. If he's brought back to the Raptors, that would be fantastic. I hope somebody pays Chris Boucher because I think he proved this year that he can be a very positive role piece. Albeit, of course, the physical concerns, the age. But, yeah, Chris Boucher is a baller.
He fills out a role on your team. He's that, he can stretch it offensively. He could block some shots. And he did put on a little bit of weight. He did get a little bit bigger. Love Chris Boucher. And I'm hoping I'd love him to come back to Toronto. I think that's a great fit for him, for me as a fan. But, yeah, I want him to get paid. I think he deserves to get at least one nice contract.
For sure. Amazing story. And, yeah, love Chris Boucher. Cover of Sports Illustrated, baby. So the next player we're moving on to, there was a very fun player on this player's team and a couple really good performances here. So Bol had never played this season, ends up playing, has some fun scrimmages, and has some fun moments even the regular season. PJ Dozier, another guy, but the player we're highlighting here is a guy who also made the all-bubble second team, Michael Porter Jr.
Yeah.
The guy is just a tremendous offensive talent. Like his shot is a thing of absolute beauty. He's legitimately like 6'10", I think, even without shoes. There's some crazy physical attributes. And when he was coming out of high school, he was considered by most the number one player. He just so talented offensively. I was lucky enough to see him a few times in high school and at Hoop Summit. Like he was the guy that the GMs were drooling over. Like his performance in the scrimmages at Hoop Summit, they're like, my God, like this guy can do no wrong.
Yeah, size, athleticism, and like pure shot.
Yeah.
And it's
like not just like the ability to, like his ways of shooting as well. Like that's the other thing. Like he can shoot off of movement. He's a great pull-up shooter, and he can, play without the ball as well. Always has had like some really solid vertical athleticism and a nose for the ball also. And
a terrible injury in college, that's what slips.
Yeah, the back injury. And then the back injury was the huge concern also going into the draft.
Pretty bad, but then it's like, yeah, it slips into this situation in Denver where you're
For sure. And like that was the thing I was kind of wondering about, because the whole thing was there was an argument in that draft of having a wing like Kevin Knox, who's younger than Michael Porter, who was similar physical attributes, but not necessarily the same level of talent, but also not the injury concerns. And he ends up going 9th in the draft, and he has really struggled. Michael Porter, of course, sits out his entire what would have been his rookie season, comes in this year as a rookie and even sits out some time there. And then you see just like there are some flashes of him being able to really help the team, and he shoots like absurdly well from three also, because that was what he did. Like that was his big thing, in that he was just really high level at being able to get his own shot and being able to make a number of 3-pointers. So he had that going for him.
It's the kind of shot where you're like, oh, that's a coach's game.
Yeah. Oh man.
Like pure.
Yeah. He is named after his father, who was an assistant with Missouri, was an assistant with Washington, then was an assistant with the Missouri women's team when his sisters were playing for them as well. It just seems like there have been like a lot of injury issues, like just in the family as well. Like his sisters had injuries. His younger brother gets hurt and tears his ACL, and then tears his ACL again.
Yeah, that's not good. Yeah, it's not good luck when you're that kind of injury. But no, he's come back and he's really playing, and it's like it's this Denver team that's super, super potent. You look at it, obviously Jokic, Jamal, the main, the two main guys, but then you got Michael Porter Jr. kind of this, coming in as this third option.
Or man, and they have Paul Millsap too. Like
they're still super productive.
Yeah,
and his stretch out his game.
Yeah, there were a few games where he was just out of this world. Shoots 55%, taking 14 shots per game, 93% from the line, 42% from three, which I think is about what he was shooting on the year, and then averages 22 points per game in 7 games. Not much you can say. It was funny because Mike Malone comments on him not making the Rising Stars Challenge, which was probably in large part due to the fact that Mike Malone wasn't playing him more. Yeah. But Michael Porter, before the season, I did an article for when I was with Rookie Wire, where I had my top 5 Rookie of the Year candidates, and I had Zion, Ja, RJ Barrett, I had Kobe White, who I don't think exactly was on that top 5 list, and I had Michael Porter Jr. I just thought he was going to be a guy who could come in and, even on a team that was competing like Denver, give that immediate impact. And he's we're hoping for the best with his health. Like people were legitimately worried about his health though and his back.
It's a scary concern, when you miss a rookie year, like, yeah, it has been done, but it's also been done not as effectively. It's just like you never know how it's going to be, if that's going to be his career where he's like a 40 games per season, 60.
Yeah, like in risk reward. So you wonder how long he's going to be at this level. But let's say he has like 2 or 3 seasons like at this level, because this looks like something he's going to be able to do. Yeah. I still have concerns with him defensively. I feel like he needs work on that end of the floor, and there were times where Denver would just take him out of the game because he wasn't getting it there, and if his shot wasn't falling. But he and like a shooting threat. So you ultimately would like him to play there. But yeah, he is going to be like just some at this level. It's so hard to say he wouldn't be like a top 10 pick and maybe even higher in a very good draft. So yeah, like you just wonder how many players in his draft, like besides like Luka, Trey, Jaren Jackson Jr., maybe DeAndre Ayton. Like I'm sure I'm missing some other people, but like how many players are going to get to Michael Porter Jr.'s level? And then if he maintains that over like a long period of time, geez, like he already looks like a steal, and this looks like a really great pick by Denver.
No, great pick by Denver.
Yeah. Their risk on some of the picks they're taking, like they're taking guys who are very talented but may have injury concerns, and they're balling. Yeah, they're looking good.
I mean, they didn't play Bull in the playoffs, and he probably won't crack that 8 rotation, you kind of keep for the playoffs. But to take a 2-way contract, on a player with that kind of upside, that
anywhere in the second round you took Bull was going to be fine. Like, and then, it was worth the risk. Yeah, even if you feel, because I feel like Bull wasn't as much, I feel, injury concern as there were maybe like other.
Oh yeah,
off-court concerns,
like enthusiasm, and like does he?
Yeah.
Those concerns.
But man, is he talented! And if you light a fire under Bull and get him to play, like it's clear he can play at this level. Now, his defensive concerns are like a whole nother.
It's a total lateral. Like that's a whole lateral quickness thing that.
Oh, awareness too. I feel also.
And I think
on ball he's a disaster, and they even initially they tried to play zone so they could kind of get Bull, because obviously great rim protector, and so you look at him as a rim protector, and some of the blocks he makes are like out of this world, but just overall as a defender, like he gets, if he's in space, he gets left in the dust, which is
tough in today's game, because everyone
gets beat off ball.
Bring out like high screen and rolls, high pick and pops. And it's like lateral, he's not there. But again, the risk, versus that.
Oh man,
like he's this guy that can stretch.
There were a lot of teams that should have taken the risk on Bull.
Oh, I think trust me, that was the very frustrating part of last year's draft, was like, you can't see some of what he's got, like especially in the second round, where it's like you literally have no skin in the game. Like whatever, like if you don't want him, you don't have to pay him anything. You could even do they do like the modern day draft and stash now too. It's like you have no long term commitment. Just pull. But yeah, I think Michael Porter Jr. great potential. Denver is going to do some damage in this playoffs. My only concerns with Michael Porter Jr. are the fact that he's a right wing nut job. And I personally think that kind of drives me nuts. Like, so
anti-vaxxing and
kind of some other things, like those are really where my concerns come up with.
Dennis Godman.
But whatever makes him happy at the end of the day.
Sure.
I guess to quote the Drew League,
as he doesn't spread it to other impressionable people. Wait.
Oh wait, he uses social media. Yeah, like I guess I felt like in the Drew League, like no excuse, just produce. Like I wish him the best as a player. I think off the court he's got obviously probably a lot of learning to do, but it's his journey.
Yeah, we'll see how it goes. But so far, it seems like his teammates are kind of loving what's going on here, and Yeah, Denver's going to be really interesting because they have these new players that were kind of brought into the equation that we'll see if they can do some damage in the playoffs. It was a tough game today, but yeah,
But they were almost at the conference
they're
final.
fun to see.
They were almost at the conference finals last year with Portland. That was
Oh,
that was
man.
down to the wire, and it's like, yeah, you add Porter
They're
Jr.
almost out in the first round last year, too.
Yeah, give us and a take it.
Yeah. Speaking of almost out of the first round last year, the team that almost beat them in the first round last year, the San Antonio Spurs, snapping a very long playoff streak. But one player we wanted to bring up who was really good in the bubble and has just been a solid pick for San Antonio, was taken at the end of the first round in his draft 3 years ago, Derek White. And I thought Derek White played really well. He's a guy you can use on both ends of the floor. San Antonio has a lot of nice young guards. They have DeJounte Murray, obviously, what was I going to say? Oh yeah, DeMar DeRozan for sure.
DeMar DeRozan is not too shabby. You still got Patty Mills in the fold. He's a little kind of more to the veteran.
Oh, Bryn Forbes was the player that I was thinking of. And then another player who played really well, who I could easily bring up also, is Keldon Johnson, who is somebody that I got to see in a few camps. Always stood out when I was watching him, and goes a little lower in the draft than I would have thought he was bound to go. People were a little concerned with how he played at Kentucky, but sometimes Calipari holds some of those guys back. The one thing that I always was really impressed with when Keldon Johnson came to Oregon for the Les Schwab Invitational, I thought they beat the living shit out of him, and he was still awesome and able to score through contact. So that was not something I was worried about. He always had a really strong body. I thought the shot was very workable. But yeah, let's talk a little bit more about Derek White and what he was doing. Like the fact that he's able to be like a secondary playmaker is a pretty big factor with him.
Well, totally.
He had a ridiculous, so he was 2.5 to 1 assist to turnover, 5 assists, 2 turnovers. Averaged 18.9 points per game, shot 39.3% from 3, making 3 attempts per game, gained to line 5 times per game. Very promising guy there, and San Antonio clearly is in that rebuilding stage now, finally.
Yeah.
They have been for a while, but yeah.
Like 22 years later, it's kind of hit. This is their first time, in that.
Yeah. You just wonder if they could ever get any luck drafting this guy who was like you knew was going to be your franchise cornerstone forever, and then drafting 2 guys one late in the first, one late in the second, who end up being 2 Hall of Fame career players, and then drafting or trading for Kawhi Leonard. And then finally it caught up with them, and they get to DeMar DeRozan, and obviously the relationship with Kawhi had come to an end, but they get to DeMar DeRozan, and that's solid, but it's not necessarily going to have you competing at the highest level. But yeah, they gave it a really good shot too, and they had a chance up until that last day. They were just hoping for some losses that didn't come to fruition.
And no LaMarcus in the bubble too, like that.
Yeah, and still playing really well. Like they were just a lot of really intriguing young talent there. But Derek White was leading the way.
No, Derek White's he's a tough player, and he's just one of those guys. Like, he worked his way up from Division II. He was at Colorado Springs, and then he gets that grad transfer up to Colorado. Gets
it up in the Pac-12,
and then he gets that late first round love from the Spurs, and it's like
he's been good ever since he's gotten there.
Yeah, it's always a good situation, like when Pop has confidence, like Popovich has confidence, and like you can develop as a player.
Yeah,
and he's really come in. He's playing strong. He's bigger point guard. 6'4".
Yeah, I thought he took some nice strides here. And it's something that I believe a lot of people were expecting him to take that next step. And yes, it was a small sample size in the bubble and sits out that last game because they already knew they had nothing to compete for. How hilarious was Pop's Trumpish fake news speech also after they were
apparently it
eliminated.
is fake news that they didn't make the playoffs this year because some people were saying that they did. Someone told Popovich, but we're not going to see them on anything. It's probably some sort of like, backwards message board where they're in the playoffs. But
Yeah.
I think Popovich always, puts together a team. I don't know. They'll probably obviously end up at the back end of the lottery. So I don't know if you're going to get that impact player. It's probably going to take some sort of turnover.
You don't know. Yeah. You don't know.
But I mean, the way he
Spurs.
the way he drafts and selects players and builds players, but like they have a few guys, towards at the end of their run, you have like, Rudy Gay and LaMarcus reaching their end.
Yeah.
DeMar's 10 years deep. You're not, you know what you're going to get with him, but you're probably not going to get much more than that.
With their luck, they'll only draft Cade Cunningham in 2021.
Yeah.
Like,
well, the last time
they did in Texas,
well, the last time they didn't make the playoffs, David Robinson got hurt at the beginning of the year. So this
in a year where there was like a dead set Hall of Fame franchise cornerstone top 10 player of all time available.
Yeah, and so it's like that's the last.
Like everybody knew was like a can't miss. Like immediately makes All NBA first team in Tim Duncan.
Yeah,
so,
then you get
they got lucky with that, and then if they get Cade, like, geez, you can't. Yeah, all I know is San Antonio's gotten some nice luck.
Yeah,
it was a really good run with luck, and people kept calling them like the boring team and everything. They were fantastic.
They're amazing. Yeah, totally.
Team turkeys. But yeah, so Derek White was our fourth guy. And we are on to our fifth name that we wanted to highlight here. This guy stepped up big time. It was getting some nice minutes near the end of the regular season for the Blazers as well. In his second year in the league, was a second-round pick. Out of Duke, his dad played for the Portland Trail Blazers. Now he is part of what is quickly looking like their best possible lineup, and that's Gary Trent Jr.
Yeah.
And GTJ shooting lights the fuck out in the bubble. Like, it was crazy. For a while, he was just not missing. He ends up finishing at a meager 45% from three-point range. But yeah, still really nice. And then the other positive factor he brings is the Blazers still do struggle with perimeter defense, but he is looking like a pretty solid perimeter defender, at least the most solid, and the guy who seems to be, at the end of the game, the person that the Blazers are sticking on the best perimeter player on most teams.
Yeah. And it's just, it's great that like his shot is so, it was so dead on in this stretch here. And it's so fun to see too, because his dad was the opposite, his dad was kind of that bigger post guy where, it's like,
yeah. Oh man.
Because like Del Curry to Steph Curry, you're like, oh, well, Del was a great shooter, so his kids are probably going to be a great shooter. But like you'd expect that Gary Trent's son should also be like in the post, like bigger.
Yeah, it's funny. Well, he is strong. Like he
he's not weak, but it's just like his dad was a much different player.
Yeah, well, his dad was like a 6'6" like post monster.
Yeah, like
they called him Shaq of the Mac.
Yeah, like a big
when he was at Ohio,
big wide-bodied guy.
Yeah, and has some nice years in the NBA too. When I met Gary Trent Sr. at Nations, I remember he was talking about Gary Jr. and somebody was bringing up like, the similarities between he and Gary Jr. And Trent just looked at the guy and he's like, my son is on a whole nother level.
Oh, totally.
For sure. He was like, my son is so much more talented at basketball than I was. And just always was a very talented scorer. The thing that you wondered was what else was he bringing to the table? And if he can be like he's looking like a 3-and-D guy.
Yeah.
And you want him to maybe bring a little bit more outside of that. He's yet to really do that at a consistent level, but he's not a minus there. And yeah, like he is looking like an absolute steal for the Blazers. And, you know, there have been some interesting returns on like Anthony Simons and on Nasir Little. You still don't really know what's going on either way with those players.
Neither one has been able to crack that 8-man, especially like at this point where it's like games are very important. We're only playing, that 8-9-man rotation maybe.
Yeah.
They're not cracking it, but Gary Trent, Jr. is, and he's
for sure
going to next year, like especially you look at the Blazers next year, it's like, does Melo come back? Probably not.
We can hope.
I'd love for Melo to come back. I still, as just a fan of basketball, I think it's cool that any player of that, plays on wears a Portland Trailblazer jersey. I mean, the only way I was able to do that before was like video games. And so it's cool to see that in real life. But yeah, like I think Trent steps up. He fills this role for, the Blazers as someone else to be able to shoot, with especially when Dame's locked down. CJ's got the back right now, that's hurting him.
Oh man, CJ, so Ja Morant played an incredible game against the Blazers. Dylan Brooks was doing a really good job on Dame, and they just decided at the end of that game against Memphis, the playing game, to go completely at Ja Morant with CJ McCollum, and it worked.
No, he's like, and CJ McCollum's so much heart, but yeah, I feel Gary Trent Jr. This was like a very pleasant, bright spot for the Blazers in this bubble towards the end of the season to really rely on him as a 3D guy, like 3D for them, something that they could bring in to make some shots quickly.
For sure. And averages 16 points per game in the bubble. Blazers need every single one of them. The guy that we also want to hugely highlight and send our deepest condolences to had lost his grandmother to COVID-19. At a point, he almost wanted to fly back to see her. I think she was the one who told him to stay there and play. My God, did I miss this guy.
Totally.
I was at the game where he broke his leg. It was a double overtime game against Brooklyn the previous season. It was one of the hardest games I've ever been to. He was playing amazing in that game too. Comes back. Guy doesn't miss a beat. He looks fantastic. He's stretched his range.
Oh yeah, no, totally.
Oh my God.
When he steps out there and hits that 3-point shot, I call him Nurk Nowitzki. Like he's changed his game a lot between then and
now. My
now.
love for this man is Nurk fever has caught on in Portland ever since he was traded here. So I'll let people in on I don't make this a very big secret. I wasn't the biggest fan of Mason Plumlee. Mason Plumlee is a talented passer, very good athlete. He hustles.
He looks like a nice person off the court, probably.
I'm sure. When we traded him for Yusuf Nurkic in a first-round pick, I celebrated in the streets. I showed today a friend of mine. I went to this game when Nurk finally got to play Denver. We were tied with Denver in the standings. This was 3 years ago. We played Denver. And Nurk goes for 33 points. Jokic, his hated rival, goes for 17. Mason Plumlee with the nice donut. And it was so fulfilling for me. But yeah, let's bring up the fact that Yusuf Nurkic was playing his absolute heart out.
Great. Like he's
his first half against Memphis was absurd. He had 17 rebounds, I believe, in the first half. Like, he was fantastic. And that's going up against Jonas Valanciunas, who's, obviously defense isn't his calling card, but still another big, center to go up against for Nurk. Not that there are many people stronger than Nurk. but still a huge.
He ends up
another guy who like just grabs tons of boards.
He ends up with 22 and 21, and he's such a hard player, and he's been so struck with a lot of misfortune in the injury department. But he's like, he's been embraced by the Portland community.
I love the contract, and like I couldn't believe we signed Nurk for what we did, or the Blazers did, and I just have to say, Nurk, we love you.
Yeah.
Portland loves you, and thank you so much for just spilling your heart out for the team. Getting a little emotional here.
Yeah, no, leave it like left it on the literally leaves it on the floor every time
he was so tired, but they needed him. They needed him.
He hasn't played real basketball games in a couple years, he's been
a year, but still, that injury was horrific, and the way that he came back from it, like better than ever. So much props to Yusuf Nurkic, and Portland loves you, Nurk. Wishing for continued success moving forward, and our fifth player was Gary Trent Jr.
He was all right.
Moving on. Let's move on to a player who had started one game prior to this, but then gets to the bubble, and he's a little bit older, like in that draft class. The pick was much maligned, and people thought he went way too high in the draft. There were injury concerns that were, I believe, like the major reason for that, the concern about how high he went in the draft. But so far, he's looked really damn good. And he was known as being one of the best shooting prospects in that draft. So obviously was there for a reason. Then some of the other things that he was showing, and like, just acumen in general. Let's shout out Cameron Johnson.
Yeah.
Who played just a great role for Phoenix. The initial video we saw of Cam Johnson in the bubble, it was kind of a Twitter video that went viral, is they're playing that game Slam Ball, where they're hitting the little target, and he's going up against Dario Saric. And Cam, like, the transformation of his body kind of showing there, knocks Dario Saric to the ground. And Dario goes, "What the fuck, Cam? Like, what the hell?" Like, and like, it was hilarious. But Cam Johnson bringing that to the court too. And like looking more athletic than I would have thought. There are some nagging injury issues that were the reason he was flagged before the draft. And people kind of wondered if that might tank his draft stock. Instead, he goes much higher than people expected at the 11th.
Had him a little later in the first, that was a people were skeptical
for sure, and like it's his rookie year. They have the right to be.
Yeah,
but so far he's looking like what they kind of thought he was going to be, and then playing that nice role. And they go 8-0 with this guy playing a really solid role for them. Shooting, like, doesn't shoot as well from three as he had on the season. He's 39% on the year. So, like, that leads every rookie that had played major games this year, like, or had, like, a solid sample size of threes. Like, he's neck and neck with Tyler Hero. But, like, Cam Johnson showing what he brings to the table as a shooter, but also, grabbing 6.9 rebounds per game in the bubble. Scoring in double digits. Mikal Bridges obviously is the better of like the, potential like 3-and-D, like based on his ridiculous defensive ability. But Cam Johnson showing that really nice role. Starts off at Pittsburgh, goes to North Carolina, has a great last couple years with North Carolina, and was an all-ACC first team selection in 2018-19. And like at least had a shot in an all-rookie team this year.
Yeah, no, he's got some good, and this Phoenix team is it's still super, super young. So like the potential definitely is there. And I think this, the 8-0 finish, gives them that momentum going into next year.
That's what you hope, for sure. And yeah, like I realized like Kelly Oubre didn't play the entire time, but man, like Devin Booker looked great running the show as he has. Ricky Rubio always just seems like he makes teams better. Like, you know, he at least showed improvement as a shooter as well. But yeah, he
a facilitator,
great defense,
playmaker,
incredible creator. They didn't even have Aaron Baines either. Like that's the other impressive.
He's a big body.
He was playing so well to start the year, and then yeah, like they get like some nice contributions from guys you wouldn't really expect. Also, like Campaign, like was just stroking like.
No. He came on towards
and you kind of felt like he may have been on the way out, but possibly showing some second life there. Yeah, DeAndre Ayton, of course, looking like a really solid player for them too. Yeah, just shout out to Phoenix. Cam Johnson looking like you still don't know if he was a steal in 11, but there's a possibility he lives up to the pick.
Yeah,
don't know.
In this day and age,
I feel like there still may be some better players that were drafted behind him, but if he lives up to that pick and like, you know, becomes a solid role player, like that's what you want at the 11th pick.
Yeah, no, totally. I'm always fine with living up to the pick. You know?
Yeah. Not always fine, but most of the time.
Well, it depends.
Most of the time, especially if it's like a later lottery guy, most of the time you're pretty good with it.
Yeah, like anything after 10.
Yeah. He was literally right after 10.
After 10, he was 11. That's why he fits in my criteria.
Indeed. So, player who had the seventh guy that we wanted to mention, player who had kind of struggled a bit on the year, efficiency-wise, averages 5.6 points per game for the season. In the bubble, has a few really nice performances, and there's like no way in hell he can keep up the shooting that he was exhibiting in the bubble, but a guy who can possibly give a glimpse to somebody like a role that the team desperately wants and seems to be well known for. Kind of like almost looking like that Jeremy Grant that this team used to have. And the player that we're highlighting here is Darius Bazley.
Yeah.
And shoots 46% on 5 attempts per game from 3 in 8 games. Only starts one of the games. But his last few games, like he has 4 games in double figures, 3 games with 20-plus points. And he was somebody that I saw at Hoop Summit and at USA Basketball, and I wasn't really blown away. Like he was one of the more intriguing guys, like a lefty, like 6'9" in shoes and 7-foot wingspan, really fluid, like good athlete, but needed to work on his body. Yes, that's like the constant complaint for players. Doesn't go to Syracuse, takes like a year to work with New Balance and everything like that. Got some hype before the draft and ends up, I think was the 23rd pick by Oklahoma City. He looks like a guy who, if given time, like could possibly fill into a nice role for them, and showed that here. Like on a few occasions, people were just really surprised with what he brought to the table.
Well, this is someone that, yeah, again, like he didn't have that year of college basketball. He was working for New Balance. So, I mean, he was training, working out, but there's that difference between coming into the NBA, and it can take some time.
Yeah, again, if he can show that he's even like an average 3-point shooter, has defensive potential, still kind of struggles to make shots in the paint, but like a nice athlete, certainly like has some fluidity and agility, and was why he was considered one of the more intriguing prospects in that high school class, and was seen as somebody who, if he had gone to college, would have likely been a one and done, and obviously he felt that way as well.
Yeah. He was to get this internship with New Balance, and they give him like a
they gave him like money. Clutch like killed that.
Yeah, like
and Darius comes to the bubble and shows that it may work out.
Well, Oklahoma City's in this kind of position too, where they have Chris Paul, obviously, who's like
Yeah,
point guard status, and then you have Shea coming up. They still
big
have
time.
Schroeder. They have good guys that can really.
That 3-guard lineup is so cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, very cool lineup. And, I think it all works with Shea being like basically a wing size anyway.
Yeah, no,
Having the same wingspan as like a Darius Baisley and like being 6'6" and still able to play point guard. So yeah, Shea's the one that makes that lineup work. But man, they were, I feel like a surprising team with how well they had played in the bubble, and really looking forward to the 4-5 with them in Houston. Well, like how crazy is it that they end up matching up with
well,
Houston?
that's why I said Chris. Yeah,
Russ not being there too. Like that's the other thing. Like Russ may be out the entire first round.
yeah.
So yeah, we'll see what happens. Like, man, the Oklahoma City, Billy Donovan did a great job there. I guess it was Budenholzer and Donovan who were named like co-coach of the year by like I think the coaches, I want to say, which is like crazy because Nick Nurse like should definitely be in there, and I guess was like one vote away from being like.
Yeah, I mean, you lose your franchise guy for nothing.
Yeah.
And you're still at that championship level. Yeah.
Crazy. And yeah, Raps killed it today. But yeah, looking forward to Oklahoma City tomorrow. And Darius Baisley, you, sir, have our attention.
Yeah, no, definitely spots are there on OKC to, really be able to shine with those guys that they have. I think it's a bright situation there.
Yeah. And then our second to last player, a player that was an absolute draft Twitter favorite. I had him top 10 on my board. I had him 9th. I think I was too low. Still had him much higher apparently than the NBA in general. But he so box plus minus is a statistic that, is something that I think you look very heavily towards in analytics. And if somebody has a positive box plus minus, it usually is a pretty good indicator of doing something right. And Zion had the highest box plus minus since College Basketball Reference had started keeping the statistic, which I believe was from like 2010 or 11. Brandon Clark had the second highest box plus minus and still ends up going 21. He's a little bit older. Not ideal physical measurements. Like he's 6'8", like with a pretty much like dead even wingspan. The thing that he brings and like a really small standing reach, if that's the case. I think it may be a little higher than given, but who knows? With the wingspan, it's certainly a possibility it was 8'6.5". Who knows? What makes him play so much bigger is the fact that he is an absurd vertical athlete and also an excellent like lateral and just like straight line mover. Crazy athlete. Like you see it right away. The guy is one of the NCAA's leading shot blockers, and he has these tremendous hands, has like amazing touch near the basket. The thing that really is the most surprising thing about Brandon Clark, and we saw this especially in the playing game, he scores 4 3-pointers in a quarter. And this is a guy who used to like shoot like side of his body, like catapult when he was at San Jose State. Switches his shot around, doesn't shoot a super high volume at Gonzaga, still shoots like about like, 68 or so percent from the free throw line, shoots 76% from the free throw line, 36% from three. Doesn't take like a huge volume of threes as a rookie either. But in the bubble, man, like the guy was doing some really, really cool things. And just somebody that I feel I want to shout out as I feel like and would be my plays for that may be sacrilegious, but he is somebody who I think is.
I'm sorry, it looks like we're having a little technical difficulty at the moment. It just cut out. What were you saying about Brandon Clark there?
Oh, so we're basically was saying that I felt like he should have been third place for Rookie of the Year. And I thought that Phoenix should have taken him at the 11th pick. But yeah, has a fantastic rookie year. And like it comes to like analytics, he's certainly near the top of this rookie class and looks like an excellent role player for Memphis. What are your thoughts on Brandon Clark, Jason?
Like me, you factor in his athleticism and, like his toughness with the fact that he was able to stretch out for the three. That's like Memphis again is another. I say this about a lot of teams, but there are so many teams that have that chance to really go out and compete, and that's going to be Memphis because you got Jaw's going to get all the attention. You got Kyle Anderson, slow-mo, but he's a good playmaker distributor, and Brandon Clark to come in, off the bench, be really aggressive, and be able to stretch the court at the same time. That's going to be someone who's got a good chance to really develop that role. And that's going to get him paid probably outside of Memphis, but that's good. Like that's all you could, want to do is kind of establish your reputation as someone who can contribute.
Yeah. And he was a tremendous pick for them in 21. I would love to see, it was just such a bummer that Jaren Jackson Jr. went down and has had injury issues because he is off to like an early start as being one of the best shooting big men in the league. And I feel like you need to give them time to get their defense together, but they both have so much acumen and like can do really good things there as well. So yeah, I'm very excited for that. And yeah, Brandon Clark is another player that we wanted to highlight here as it wasn't like he was crazy different from what he was before the bubble, but still was somebody that
he's playing at a good level. And if you're not familiar with him and you're not aware of him, it's a good chance to take a look next time you're watching, especially Memphis, because he's a solid player. And hey, he was talked about on our Canadian players list as well in a previous episode. So
high on our Canadian players list.
Yeah.
And yeah, let's also highlight another player on that team, and that is John Morant, who is absurd, so damn athletic.
Yeah.
And he like great passing acumen as well. He had a tough game decision-making wise against the Blazers and had, I believe, 8 assists and 8 turnovers. But man, he was just like blowing by them, and he just has some spectacular athletic ability.
Well, yes, just his ability to go from 0 to 100 so quickly is
amazing. And then also like the vertical athleticism. Yeah. Like, yes, it's off of 2 feet, but man, he like
you'll take it. Yeah, if you can do it.
And then the shooting too. Like I think he was well ahead as a shooter than what many believed, and played well beyond expectations this year. A very bright future talent in the NBA.
Totally. And the one thing he's going to have over Zion.
So fun to watch too.
The one thing he'll have over Zion probably is that Rookie of the Year.
Indeed. Yeah. He has my vote. It doesn't count for much, but he has my vote, and I love Zion Williamson. I
love Zion, yeah.
As you know, Zion Williamson, us as Viseland as a podcast thinks the world of Zion Williamson. John Morant played enough and played well enough where he won Rookie of the Year.
It's volume of resume for
it may not be fair and square because of like Zion's like injury issues, but that was nothing Ja could help. So
like John, they're friends. I mean, John wanted him to be healthy.
Absolutely. And I think Zion, as competitive as he may be, probably would have given Ja his vote as well.
And he'll probably get some other hardware along the way.
Oh, yeah. I think they both
could, yeah.
At least make many All-Star games.
I say next year All-Star game contention, both of them, 100%.
For sure. Zion, I feel this year. But, yeah. if he would have been able to play. The last person that we wanted to highlight, I realized I called Darius the 7th. I think he was the 8th. Regardless, the last person that we want to highlight on this list is Troy Brown Jr., a friend of the program, somebody that we just both personally love and maybe very biased towards.
Insanely nice person.
Very nice guy.
Yeah.
Very nice guy. And more importantly, in the case of this list, showing some possibility of being a nice player. And there are still concerns. There are still concerns, and he was not on a very good team. Athleticism has been a concern with Troy. He's not the greatest NBA athlete. Shooting concerns as well. The efficiency here isn't necessarily off the charts, but there were definitely some positives. He has 4.5 assists to 1.8 turnovers. Troy's a good passer.
Yeah.
Shoots 92% from the free throw line. Not in the highest volume, but still, that's something. 32% from three. You'd like to see that go up. But yeah, also averages 15 points per game, 7.3 rebounds. He plays almost 33 minutes per game. So not like he's setting the world on fire or anything like that. But if Troy can at least be a nice piece for them, I'm not sure he ultimately in a redraft would go 15. But if he's a nice piece for them, if he's a good rebuilding piece, if he at least shows some promise moving forward as being a complementary wing player, that's not bad.
Yeah, no, it's and I think he had a really good opportunity. This was a great opportunity for him to really show his ability to kind of fill up a stat line a little bit with, obviously no Wall. He's been out all year. Neal chooses not to come to the bubble because Washington literally had no chance of doing anything.
Pretty much.
So, it's just a great opportunity for someone like him to get good run, play, important, valuable minutes for him to continue to develop as a player at an NBA level. I mean, he has the one game, he goes 20, 10, 5 assists against the Pelicans. I mean, he's a guy that can really do a lot of things. He's a jack of a lot of different trades. He's not really necessarily the master of any of them. Yeah. But there's nothing wrong. Few people are the master of a skill in the NBA. I mean, those are, elite, but he can really do a lot, provide a lot for your team. And I think just a good, solid passer, good playmaker. And then he can also, rebound, defend a little bit. Again, shooting's always been a thing that he can improve upon. But we'll see how that, transitions next year once John Wall does come back. What does that Washington team look like? But again, he's going to get a chance to be a role player on a team that theoretically is a playoff team with Wall and Beal going.
Yeah. And I think, the size has some defensive potential as well. And just the ability to be that secondary playmaker. And it seems like in the NBA, he's really had a nice assist to turnover ratio. Doesn't make tons of mistakes. So very nice thing. He's obviously not going to be a primary initiator or somebody that you really want playing heavy minutes as your backup point guard, as he sometimes had to do at Oregon. But he, certainly took some positive strides this year. And yes, it was a tough year in Washington. And yes, they were the worst team in the bubble. They win that last game basically based on the fact that Boston had nothing to really play for.
Yeah.
But yeah, wanted to highlight Troy Brown Jr., who is somebody that we're both really pushing for. And, we've got Troy, have Dylan Brooks playing some big minutes for Memphis, have Chris Boucher stepping up. We're hoping Jordan Bell can land somewhere and, get another chance. Oregon, we're pushing for Peyton Pritchard too. Let's hope the best case scenario for that man who was everything to the team this year. But yeah, we'll talk. This is Viseland. We're going to talk more about Oregon basketball later.
You're gonna hear that. You're gonna hear it come up. It's a recurring thing. But
Yeah.
Troy's just one of those guys. You know, he was very highly regarded as a recruit.
Yeah.
As well, and just
won me over.
Yeah, I'm just hoping to really see him fill a role on a team that can hopefully become a playoff team. I mean, like hopefully, like Rui Hachimura continues to develop. John Wall looks good in his latest video. Bradley Beal, you know what you're getting there, which is just someone who can shoot the lights out.
Hoping for some lottery magic.
Yeah.
They still, I guess they'll have the 9th or 10th pick. But yeah, I thought they were slotted at 9 last time. But yeah, we will see.
They should get an extra pick for sending them to Florida with literally no chance of going to the.
Yeah, just a punching bag. It was another guy that we should highlight too, who played really well in the bubble and is like starting to really step out from 3 too, and just really good energy big man who has provided a nice offensive kick for them.
Well, I'll just say Moritz Wagner as well, getting headbutted by Giannis. I mean, that's like the story of his grandkids.
That is indeed. And then let's hope they're both on the court when Germany plays Greece in Eurobasket.
Oh yeah, it's gonna get intense.
But yeah, those were the players that we wanted to highlight. Jason, anybody else that you that caught your eye in the Orlando bubble?
That was, it for really young guys. I mean, it's just I'm continually just impressed by Damian Lillard. Just as the fact that like he's this guy.
We can gush about Damian Lillard.
Yeah, like that's been for me.
What an absurd season! Like he was so damn good this year.
Just what he does, and you look at this, it's like, oh, guys to score 60 points 3 or more times in a season.
Yeah.
Wilt Chamberlain, Damian Lillard.
That's it.
And the sense is, and so for me, like as as just a lifelong Blazer fan, as someone who played point guard, but obviously didn't have that shooting ability, but like he's just amazing. It's incredible and fun to watch.
He's probably what we wanted Damon Stoudemire to actually be.
Correct, but I still obviously hold Damon in how he is. But I would say Damian Lillard is the best Blazer, not just point guard.
When we're talking about Dame, you know who we're talking about.
Yeah.
And
I do love Damon Stoudemire as evidenced by my wardrobe. If you're watching this on YouTube, you notice I always have the Damon Stoudemire jerseys going at full blast. Got to represent.
So, yeah, his shooting from past 30 this year has been absolutely ridiculous. Some of those pull-up threes he took in the last couple games, like from the logo.
Yeah, well, you look at the way
bounce. The bounce is something that we'll always remember too. Man, that one that bounced in to tie the game up. Holy!
Because that range that he's exhibiting too. It's like you look around the league. It's like really Steph Curry, him, maybe Trae Young.
Yeah, but what Damian did this year as being the complete focal point of the offense, to the largest extent of his career, and still the efficiency with which he did it. This is by far his most efficient year in the NBA. And he, playing at an absolute different level. He may not be first team all NBA, but has to be at least in the conversation.
Of course not. Because the NBA doesn't give
MVP voting. Damian Lillard was tremendous this season.
No, he's
going by the people that they usually slot at point guard. He probably was the best point guard in the NBA. If you're throwing in Luka and LeBron, maybe not, but he had an absolutely fantastic year. And then Portland, in typical Trailblazer fashion, got in by the skin of their teeth. And, he has the missed free throws against the Clippers and Paul George and Patrick Beverley, doing their whole thing. And
taunting him, but then Denver taunted them by playing some Dame Dolla during the warm-ups. So, Dame proved them wrong.
It was something that I guess he needed to get those last few games in. And
Sorry, just to prove his point in
the bubble seeding games were it was Lillard time, and he had an incredible run there, and we hope that he carries that into the playoffs. But yeah, we're just very much looking forward to the playoffs. Thank you all for stopping by.
They're finally here, and just for context, like Michael's birthday is in June, my birthday's in October. Yeah. Usually Michael's birthday coincides with.
We're gonna have a finals game on your birthday this year.
Yeah, Michael's birthday usually coincides with an NBA Finals game. My birthday usually coincides with like maybe training camp starting. That's the only kind of basketball thing that happens. Is like this year it's like the opposite because like I could have a birthday finals game, which is just something that is going to happen now and hopefully never happen again in my lifetime.
That's the ultimate hope. It's just so weird, and like not having Las Vegas. Yeah, we're hoping it eventually goes back to the way that it was.
And, I don't want 2 seasons to, I don't want next season to kind of be this like messed up.
And you had like players like almost like scheduling their like births for like this off season, and it kind of wasn't an off season.
Well, as Scottie Pippen said, I'm not fucking up my summer.
Yeah,
and then they're
not fucking up my summer. Well, COVID-19.
Yeah.
You fucked up Scottie Pippen's summer. Many others.
If this was 97, 98, Scottie, get your ass out there. We got to go to the playoffs. But
yeah,
I don't know. It's been exciting. It's just been good having basketball just back in.
It honestly has been a very fun time, and I really am looking forward to how these playoffs turn out. I'm sure there's going to be more drama than there was today because it was chalk across the board. But like hoping further in, there may be a few upsets. You never know.
Well,
we're hoping everybody stays healthy, and we're hoping things keep going in that direction.
The funny thing this year in the playoffs too is they're all, there's no home team technically, so they're all staying at the same hotel. So these are like guys you are like literally seeing at breakfast after you just went to go have like battle with them on the court.
Yeah,
go play ping pong. Go back to the game.
Hey, you can stay angry at them while you play ping pong.
Yeah. But let us know in the comments if if there's any players you were really psyched about or excited or saw some spark potential in during this.
Who's going to make an all-star team out of these players first? Or will it be multiple?
That's true.
Yeah.
There are some, Porzingis gets the nod just because he's done it, but
yeah.
But no, let us know.
There are some options here.
Let us know, who you're digging in the comments. We'd love to hear that. We'd love to kind of have that discussion of like what you think about these players. You could always leave us a comment here. You could also tweet us at Viseland, or you can send us an email, viselandpod@gmail.com.
And I am Michael Visenberg. You can follow me on Twitter at NBA Draft Mikey V. He is Jason Visenberg. You can follow him on Twitter at jvisenberg. We would love your reviews and your likes, anything to get more people watching Viseland. We have so much fun doing this, and to everybody that has given us a nice comment or anything like that, we greatly appreciate it. We've gotten just fantastic feedback, and it means so much to us. Thank you so much for coming by and checking out Viseland this week. We will get back to you next Wednesday.
Yep. Have a good week, everybody.